Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the 7-part mini-series Baby Reindeer. Please don't forget to let me know what you think of the video below. Baby Reindeer is about a struggling comedian and barman, Donnie, who meets a lonely woman claiming to be a lawyer. He offers her a cup of tea on the house and she instantly is obsessed. Just to start off, the cast of Baby Reindeer is so talented. Like, there were several performances which really stood out to me, and I'll get into a bit more detail around that. But in terms of the core people in the cast, we have Nawa Mao, who plays Terry. We have Richard Gadd, who plays Donnie. And we have Jessica Gunning, who plays Martha. And a performance which comes straight to my head is Richard's monologue towards the end of the series. I think it's in episode 6, if I remember correctly. Amazing. And when it comes to Jessica, 2 words: the laugh. Like, that laugh was one of the most memorable laughs ever. When I first watched Baby Reindeer, I hadn't heard anything about it. Sometimes I like to go in not knowing anything about a film or a TV series when I first watch. And me and my sister, we watched episode 1 and episode 2, and I was like, whoa. But I was intrigued to find out what would happen next. And I feel like a lot of it sets out to make the audience uncomfortable, but there's also elements of like understanding Richard. When Donnie was sort of going through the journey of navigating having a stalker and not quite knowing what to do, but then there's also this part of him that feels bad, that feels intrigued, that feels seen by Martha. Like, the complexities of that relationship I thought was quite interesting. I noticed, and I'm going to talk about this in more detail later on, that no one really had the space or time for that complexity, and his male colleagues did not take it seriously at all. One of them even went on to steal his phone from them when things were getting serious in terms of the amount of emails that Martha was sending, and go ahead and send an email to his stalker that was inappropriate, and that just contributed to the stress and overwhelm that Donnie was feeling. Like, there's something to be said about male friendships in that context as well. Also, another thing that stood out to me, obviously as a black woman watching the show, was Martha's racism, okay? And part of me kind of wished they could have fleshed this out just a little bit more. I just wondered, in terms of the creator, is him writing about this a reflection of how he as a white person looks back at this and like informing how he lives his life now? In episode 3, she's also racist towards Terry. And I just wanted to see a little bit more around that in terms of a conversation, or I don't know, like there's just something about that I felt like it wasn't really explored enough. Next theme is consent. After he is sexually assaulted by the producer, this is in episode 4, he's overwhelmed and distant when he comes home to Keely's home, right? To Keely's house, which I believe her mum lived as well. And she wanted to be intimate with him. When he said no, she did not listen. And when he continued to reject her, she took it personally and walked away. And as I touched on briefly, it shows that even with people that you care about, or that you're close with, or that you have trust with, your sexual boundaries can still be eroded. That person can still disrespect you. Sometimes, you know, there's this idea that if it's your husband, or if it's your wife, or if it's your partner, that they can't be someone that violates your boundaries, but they very much can. So I felt like that scene was particularly educational. I found a very particularly beautiful scene was at the end. I think it was episode 7, when he visited his family, his mum and his dad. And his dad also was a victim of sexual abuse in the church. And he was able to finally have that sanctuary where he could express his feelings, where he was seen, where he was understood. How would I rate this series? I really enjoyed the series. I think I'll probably give it an 8. I like how it brought up very important conversations around abuse, and particularly in the context of male survivors, and Richard Gadd being a bisexual man. And I think overall he had very dominant, confident people in his life that were so sure of themselves, and that's what attracted him to them, because that's what he lacked in himself, right? And that dichotomy between him and Terry in particular, she is proud of who she is, particularly her identity as a trans woman, right? Whereas in contrast, he's unsure around his sexuality and his relationship with intimacy, having experienced SA. And I think especially with entertainers, people in that field, like, your sense of self is undermined if you're constantly associated in terms of what you bring others. So once you lose that, or if you're not able to achieve that, you feel lacking. And it always links back to capitalism. But really what it makes me think about is that if you're not successful in a way that capitalist society deems fit, you are dehumanized. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I feel like that, that sadness, that deep sadness of not making it, is a lot of things that people have. And it's like, if you don't have those symbols of success, the house, the family, all of these different things, you're not only failing to meet patriarchal expectations, but you're like, what is your life? What have you done with your life? Like, it's always seen as like you haven't done anything. If you're not like super successful, it's like, you're behind. There's always this race, particularly for women. This whole idea, if you have to get married by the time before you're 30, your biological clock. And it's quite ironic that people are literally going to Richard's page, going through all of his followers and clicking it in and going through all of it just to like almost like see who's who could be. I'm just like, wow. But I'm not going to touch on that too much. But I will say I get the intrigue. I'm not, I also am influenced. Sometimes as an audience, we feel entitled to know everything. And I think that is something that I just had to mention. There's some really good conversations which have come from the show. And yeah, please let me know what you think about this video, my thoughts, but also Baby Reindeer. What would you rate Baby Reindeer if you've seen it? And yeah, please check out the other videos on my channel. And don't forget to like the video. All right, stay tuned. Bye.